All right. Welcome to episode 2 of Detention to Details with Justin Day. Today's episode is From Popping Wheelies to Preaching the Word with Matt Suarez. So, welcome to the show. This is a podcast where we turn struggles into success and dirt into shine. So, today's guest is a wild one, from flying down the freeway on one wheel to leading a congregation of Christians. So, introduce yourself.
Yeah, man, I'm honored to be here. I'm Matt Suarez, formerly 214 Matt, in another life, but yeah, just a grateful believer in Jesus now who has lived somewhat of a crazy life and grew up as a heathen, and now I'm just serving God. Yeah, it's pretty fun. It's
well,
amazing.
that's what this whole podcast is about, really, bud. Is showing people that you can go from the dumpster to God's congregation and be important and loved and valued. Right?
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
So give us a little backstory about your early days. Like, how'd you get into riding, and tell me about your upbringing.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Salinas, California. It's a farming town, and my dad was a flat tracker, dirt bike rider. So we got into dirt bike riding pretty early as kids, and we would just push our bikes across the street, go into the lettuce fields, and go ride. So that really started a racing and riding lifestyle for us. Sure. To be honest, God wasn't in the picture, right? We grew up heathen, I like to say, just doing what we want, playing sports and riding bikes. And
Was there any religion in your family at all, really, or not really? You weren't really exposed to it much as a kid, or?
Yeah, I would say I wasn't exposed at all to it. Maybe a funeral here or there, maybe a wedding. I know my dad grew up Catholic. Kind of ran from the faith as he got older, and my mom wasn't raised with any religion. Army brat, traveled and ended up in Fort Ord in Seaside, California. So, yeah, we just grew up riding dirt bikes, having fun, playing outdoors. And 2001, I moved into the Bay Area and for a job at a motorcycle shop. And, yeah, I ended up engaged to a woman who cheated on me and left me. And you know what they say, when guys get hurt, the hurt gets real. And you notice we either buy motorcycles or we get pretty jacked. And I got a motorcycle. I didn't get jacked.
Right.
But yeah, I bought my first street bike.
What was it?
A 2002 ZX7R.
Okay.
I love that super bike look. And
yeah.
All my friends that raced dirt bikes before, they switched all their licenses over to AMA road racing.
Okay.
So I wanted to get on a track. I wanted to go fast, wanted to do the twisties. And my buddies and I, that we all worked at the shop together, we were going around a corner, shooting the canyon roads, and it was a decreasing radius turn. And I ended up off into the dirt, almost going off a 300-foot cliff.
Jeez.
And I looked right behind me, and my other buddy was right next to me.
Yeah.
Luckily, we were both dirt riders, so we didn't lay it down. But that kind of scared me.
It happens a lot, man, especially in canyons when you're new at riding. You don't understand. And for people that don't ride, a decreasing radius is you're going downhill and then a sharp turn. And what it does is it loads up the front suspension already, so that when you go to brake, you really just don't have much play there, right? So it stiffens up the bike a lot. And what happens as newer riders, I think, a lot is we look what we're trying to stay away from rather than where we want to go, right? And I think as I've gotten more mature in my riding, when I would do those spirited runs, I would keep them in my mind. Do not look off the cliff. Do not look off the cliff.
Yeah.
No matter what, look through and there had been times where I'm coming in hot and you're hot on the brakes and you're staring at where you don't want to go, and you just have to trust. Snap that head and the bike just dumps in, and so I totally get it. Those canyon roads can be scary.
And my buddy that was in front of me, because we were racing. I mean, we were
competition,
late 20s, right? We were racing, and he overshot and went across the double yellows. And by the time I realized it, like you said, I was fixated on him, and I couldn't make the turn. So we decided, all three of us, to stop riding twisties and start doing wheelies. and we would just go out at night. We all worked at the Harley. It was a Harley, Honda, Kawasaki, Buell shop, and
Okay.
we would go out at night and just do wheelies. And someone
Like rolling freeway wheelies?
yeah,
or?
no, just industrial area,
Okay. Yeah,
rev
yeah.
limiter,
Yep.
non-impressive,
Pow, pow.
power wheelies
Yeah,
until we
yeah.
rev limit all the way down. And what was pretty cool is my buddy bought a video camera, and he bought a video camera, and we kind of started just filming ourselves. And as we did that, people just started showing up.
Yeah, it was really new then.
And I don't know why they showed up. Like,
It's interesting.
I'm from the area where, Darius was there. Like, we had some Alex Flores, some OGs that were really good, like best in the country good.
Yeah.
And we're just doing power wheelies, and people showed up.
Their spots are generally pretty private, as
Yeah.
you know. I mean, when you get, the more popular you get, the more private of a spot you want, because you don't want that.
Yeah. And
We crash in practice too, and it's like,
for sure.
we want people to see a show, not us practice. So
And it was fun. So we just kept doing that. And eventually, one of the guys in our group who didn't ride but had some video editing skills said, let's do a video. So, man, we just started filming and traveling and filming and
what year
doing
was that?
videos. 2004.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, so we weren't at the beginning of stunt riding.
Well, you were at the beginning of recording it. I mean, it's
Yeah, so it was pretty fun, and we would progress so fast that the stuff we would film for the video we couldn't use because it just looked off, right? And I can't watch that video today without going, that was horrible.
Yeah.
Wow. Delusions
somebody-
of grandeur for sure.
It's like detailing too, though, man. I mean, I can spend an hour on a car and someone could be like, "Oh my God, it looks so good, Justin. Thank you so much." And I'm like, "It smells bad or scratches."
Yeah.
Like I see all these things, but it's all in the eye of the beholder, right? And
For
I think
sure.
that's why aviation is really interesting to a lot of people because they see it, they don't really understand it, they don't have the capability to be inside a cockpit and watch it all go down. So it's interesting, so I think that's kind of where the popularity picked up for you probably, is that people that don't have exposure to seeing the wheelies or maybe just got a motorcycle and are kind of interested, that
Yeah, for
type
sure.
of people, and it also ultimately brings a really great crowd together, right? I mean, I've made some really amazing friends at the stunt lot and doing barbecues and bonfires.
That's
and
right, yeah.
friends that have lasted a lifetime, and some friends that are gone already.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, so stunt riding, we got into that. What kind of mindset does it take to stunt ride?
I don't know, to be honest. I just kind of was in the moment. I didn't go into stunt riding thinking I was going to be the best. To be honest, I just did it for fun. I did it to escape reality for that 2 hours, 3 hours I was in the parking lot
Yeah.
where I didn't have to deal with life. I could just focus on doing wheelies and burnouts or learning new tricks and stuff like that. But I think it does take some carelessness to be a stunt rider. You have to be willing to risk it all, put yourself on the line. And
Yeah, you got to be willing to take a hit, man, because I can tell you now, I mean, I wasn't like a avid stunt rider, but I really enjoyed 50s and 88s and like my little 124s and stuff. I have scars all over my legs to show. And it's great, to feel that progression. But have you ever gotten like hurt? Because I mean, obviously, I've never been to the stunt lot where I didn't fall, right? And I guess you learn to fall a little bit more gracefully as you progress through your riding. But in the beginning, and even throughout your riding, you have high sides, freak accidents and stuff. Have you had anything like that happen? Or
Oh yeah, definitely. I've wrecked plenty of bikes. I've gone over the front on
that's
endos and
never
separated
fun.
my shoulder, and was hit from behind at 70 miles an hour and scraped along the pavement and rubbed off a tattoo.
Yeah.
Tattoo asphalt removal, I don't recommend it. Um,
Yeah, we talked
but
about it. Let's see that. Let's see that thing again.
Yeah, like
Oh my
it's
goodness.
my cool 2000 Sun.
You should have the bottom side like touched up fresh and just leave the top like
That's
to
all
fade.
scar tissue, brother. That would hurt. It hurts
I'm
when
sure
it
it
gets
would.
sunburned.
I bet.
Broke some upper 3 ribs
Oh
and
man, me too.
high-sided a drift at a stunt lot one time where I thought I broke a rib, but X-rays showed nothing.
Yeah, and that even a bruised rib hurts to breathe,
Yeah.
hurts to sneeze. It's like, please don't tell a joke because if I laugh, it hurts
That's
too.
it. That's it. Yeah, I remember specifically. I went up to Salt Lake City. I was invited to go participate in a stunt competition. And I was kind of the XDL rider coming into an amateur stunt competition, kind of like a gimmick. Hey, we got a guy who competes in the XDL series. And I was a low-level guy. I wasn't nothing big. But first thing I did was I mousetrapped my bike and threw myself over the bars in front of all these amateur riders and hurt myself pretty good.
Of course.
Yeah.
And you got to get up and like kind of shrug it off
yeah.
and act cool, but you're really like,
You're tough.
that
You're
really
tough,
hurts,
and
that hurts.
ended up doing a circle comp against every single one of them, and
That's funny.
still won.
Nice.
But I was in some
Pulled it off,
pain and
yeah.
little embarrassed. I think my ego was hurt more than my body at that
For
point.
sure. Well, at that point, I mean, I know I've wrecked a lot of motorcycles too, and for the first day, your adrenaline's going so hard, you don't really feel a lot, and that second day when you wake up, you're like,
Yeah, definitely.
kind of wondering why you do this still, right? Any like near death stories, anything like that on motorcycles, or
Yeah, I mean, I can remember really vividly this time where, because I was reckless and I was running from something that I didn't understand or didn't know. My best friend had passed away, and it sent me down a road of drinking and stunt riding and craziness. And I can remember coming back from this bar one night, and I lifted up a wheelie. And when I lifted up a wheelie, I looked to my right, and the people we were with were in a car, and that car was sliding sideways.
Yeesh.
And the driver's eyes, I can remember his eyes bulging out of his head with a look of, I just almost killed you.
Yeah.
And I just looked at him and kept the wheelie going, and I didn't care, right? I just kept that wheelie going, and his car slid sideways and kind of went off the road.
Yeah.
I believe I probably should have been dead because of that.
Well, you probably didn't even know what was going. You probably didn't even know how severe it was because you're looking forward, and he's coming at you from the side and from behind.
For sure. And we were at high rate of speed, and of course, again, I didn't know until years later when I was reflecting on it that I had come that close to just getting wiped out by a car.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was pretty. I would say that would be my closest near death. Everything else, I might have wished I was dead. It just hurt a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure. Well, I mean, what would you say your turning point was and all that? Where did you kind of decide, like, okay, I need to be a dad and a husband and a productive member of society? Not that you weren't at the time, but
I don't think there ever was a moment, to be honest. I mean, I was here in Vegas doing stunt shows at strip clubs, and my wife, was there sometimes when she was pregnant, and then when my newborn was there. And to me, it was just a stunt ride job, right? It was a bike night. I wouldn't participate in anything. Really, it wasn't until I walked into my garage, and it had been a year since I had ridden, where I really just decided to hang it up. I just didn't have the love, didn't have the passion, didn't have it in me to hit the pavement anymore.
what year was that?
2016.
2016. So we had had a significant amount of acquaintances and friends pass away by that point. I know that my son JD was born in 14, and I mean, when he was born, my whole entire mindset changed, man. Like I lost 5 seconds at Spring Mountain, easily 5 seconds a lap, and something was going on with my Aprilia where I was getting false neutrals in the bowl, you know, and
Yeah, for sure.
you're in a full hard right-hand turn and you lose all power to the back wheel. The bike just wants to walk to the outside. You know, it's one of those things where you just kind of have to like
Yeah.
kind of yank it and, you know,
Yeah.
look in that direction. But it happened to me twice. And the second time I'm like, you know what, like there's a sign here telling me that maybe I shouldn't be doing 140 down the back straight, you know, rubbing elbows with, you know, professional racers. Like I'm just a random guy, you
Yeah,
know,
for
I'm not
sure.
getting paid for this. I'm not sponsored. Do I love it? Yes. Does it take me
Yeah.
away from all the pain that I'm feeling? Yes. But is it the safest thing? Probably not. Right. And more importantly, so what I had found out is when I get hurt, I can't be the dad and the business owner and the man that I need to be. Right. So it's kind of like I had to hang it up to, man. And it's like, I wasn't very happy about it, but I got a side by side, right? So I could take the kids out and we
Yeah.
could go to the dunes and we'd go riding at nighttime and it was fun, right? And I had a 2-year-old, so I would just put his car seat in there and bro, I would strap a ratchet strap to the back of the bar and to his helmet. So like if I hit the brakes hard, it wouldn't, you know, jar his head
That's awesome.
forward. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was great.
yeah.
And every time I stopped, he'd be
Sleeping.
passed
Love
out.
it.
Passed out. Loved it. So, you know, I did pick up a bike again during COVID because like the streets were empty, you know, and there was nothing else to do. And I picked up this like 14 R1 for I don't know, like $6,500. Is beautiful bike, full titanium exhaust, all everything that I would have done to it, right? And I took that to the track a couple times and had fun. But once traffic started picking up again, it's like, nah, I'm not. But I shifted my passion and my, I guess, not destructiveness, but I guess my curiosity and daredevilness towards flying, right? And it seems like there's a lot more at stake, but it really more accidents happen in cars than planes, right? But it has been a super challenge, and it's been really fun to kind of progress through and learn. Just similar to stunt riding and riding, just kind of relating the two things, you know.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
So how'd you come to faith then? Because I mean, you're a pastor at Central Church, and I had no idea. I started going to Central, I want to say in 2002, like early 2002. I was going through a divorce, and I guess it was 23 actually, early 23. I was going through a separation, a divorce, custody battle, all that, and a friend introduced me to Central, and I went there, and I was just like, wow, this is different, you know. And I grew up Catholic, so it was always sit, stand, kneel, peace be with you, and also with you, you know. And when you walk into Central, one of the things they say is it's okay not to be okay, right? And
That's right.
I don't think, at least the churches I grew up going to would never admit that, right? It was like everything was fine, we're all fine, I'm fine, he's fine, you're fine, we're fine, everything's fine. But it's not fine, right? It's why we're all there.
Hotel for the holy. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So it was definitely an interesting experience. And, you know, Drew just is incredible, right? I mean, he leads worship.
Yeah.
Really great. Nothing against anybody else. They all have beautiful voices. But when I walk in and someone else is singing, I'm like, man, no Drew today. That's okay. You know, he needs a break too. And you know, Judd, he reminds me of like Stu off The Hangover. He's just kind of like goofy and nerdy like that, but funny at the same time. And the way that I explained Central Church to people is I'm like, picture a half an hour country concert and then a half an hour stand-up comedy show. Like, because that's essentially what it is, because he's hilarious and he does a really great job at keeping everyone engaged and paying attention.
Yeah,
and
right.
I mean, he brings tears to people's eyes, and you know, it's that's important when you're leading that many people. I mean, because for the people that don't know about Central, there's tens of thousands of people that watch it. How many different locations?
Man, we have Summerlin, Aliante. We have Sunrise
Kingman,
Mountain,
Sunrise
Kingman,
Mountain, Henderson.
Australia. We have 2 in Florida, 2 in Mexico. We have our Espanols too.
Yep, and you do the God Behind Bars.
God Behind Bars. Our online church actually is our largest
Wow.
attended. So, yeah, I mean, Pastor Judd's the real deal. That guy he's the same person on and off stage, but
That's cool, yeah.
Man, the way I came to faith is, like I said, growing up, I didn't believe in God. I would say I'm more of a Saul to Paul kind of story where I didn't like Christians. I actually hated all people equally. I was kind of just a bad person, right? I was.
You had some hate in your heart for some reason.
For sure. I was angry.
Yeah.
Working through it now, I was angry and mad at a God I didn't believe in, I said, right? But it wasn't until I met my wife, really the first encounter of a pursuit of God. Her and I had gotten into an argument. I was working as a parts manager at a Harley shop, making really good money, living on my own, and I bounced a rent check. And she just happened to be in my condo when they walked up. Let's say my wife's an RN. She worked at Stanford, owned her own home, and she thought that I was someone who had their act together because I had a great job. And when I got home from work that day, she was in tears and just said, "You're not serious. Like, you're not serious. You're bouncing rent checks." I was making over $100,000 a year and living by myself with no children and bouncing rent checks. So I was careless, had a lot of motorcycles in the garage, and ate really well. And she decided to leave. And again, I figured I deserved it at that point. Like, she was right. I wasn't serious. I wasn't taking her serious. I wasn't taking myself serious. I was still running from my emotions and my anger and my rage. She came back that night for some reason, sat down on my couch and told me that God told her to come back.
Wow.
And at that point, I was a liar, right? A manipulator. I didn't know about the God thing, right? But I said what she needed to hear to keep her around.
Yeah.
Because I was a liar. I was a phenomenal liar.
Of course.
I could lie to myself. I could lie to anybody. And she said that if I wanted to be with her, I needed to believe in something. And again, I didn't know the difference. What's a Catholic? What's a Christian? And my wife is amazing. She's an amazingly smart woman. She said, "Hey, being a Catholic's like going to a 4-year college. Being a Christian's like going to a 2-year." And I said, "I'm junior college material, so I'll give Christian a shot." Thinking in my head that I would never really give it a shot, right? Yeah. I was just kind of lying to her to keep her around, trying to manipulate the situation, and ended up getting a job in Las Vegas that brought us here. And as soon as we got here, she wouldn't let it go. She kept saying, "Hey, we need to find a church." And a coworker of hers at a hospital she was working at invited her to Central. And of course I said, "Hey, you find a place I feel comfortable where nobody judges me, and
that's never gonna happen.
I'll give it a shot," right?
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. Oh, it'll never happen. I'll just say they looked at me funny. I've got tattoos, right? Because I'd never really experienced church.
Yeah.
We walked into Central, and believe it or not,
a guy with tattoos across his forehead.
A guy with a giant mohawk. The first guy I see has a giant mohawk.
Yeah.
And he's in a wife beater tank top wearing shorts, drinking a coffee. And at that time, it was 2006, Michael Murphy was the worship leader, and Drew was in his band. So it was the Michael Murphy band, and he was on stage doing a guitar solo. And I couldn't believe this was a church.
Yeah.
And it kind of disarmed me and really took away any excuse that I could have to say I felt judged. Because I wasn't the craziest looking person in there.
Nowhere near it.
Pastor Judd was amazing. So we kept going back. And again, I was kind of at first playing Christian, consuming, just listening and consuming, and ended up to where God kind of reached into my heart, and Pastor Judd does his salvation prayer at the end of all of his sermons where he gives someone a chance to come to God. And I prayed that prayer and I raised my hand, and my wife freaked out. And because it was unexpected, I
Yeah.
didn't know I was going to do it. I did it for me, not for
Something
her.
was on your heart that day.
Yeah, and then we did a surprise baptism at the church, and I just looked at my wife and said, "I'm going down there." So I went and got baptized in 2007 there.
Wow, you've been going there
And
for a while.
yeah, so it was pretty amazing to be able to go down there. And back then they would send you your baptism certificate with a photo, and it's either a bad camera or a demon came out of me. It was pretty funny. We kind of laugh about that when
Got the
I
green
when I
eyes.
look at it just looks like something came out of me.
Maybe it did.
I think it was a blurred camera.
No,
But
maybe it did.
it might have, but yeah, that started me on my journey. But I still made excuses why I didn't want to go.
Yeah.
My daughter was born, and it would be where I didn't want to drive 20 minutes to Henderson when I lived in the Southwest area. And then they opened up in 2008 a location at Desert Oasis High School, and it was 10 minutes from the house.
Yeah.
And my wife decided,
talking to you like, Matt.
my wife decided we're gonna go there. And of course, me, I'm fighting it and
Again,
kind of
looking for
being
excuses.
pig-headed, looking for excuses. It's not the same band. Pastor Judd's not live. She immediately plugged in and started serving, and it was a set up tear down location. So when we would leave, it would take forever, and of course, I would watch my wife like tear down this entire child area with a couple other volunteers, and I would sit and not do it. And then one day, for some reason, it got put on my heart to start serving. So I did what I do, and I went up to the pastor and said, "Hey, man, I do some stunt riding. If you ever need a stunt show, let me know."
No way.
Yeah, and he took me up on it, actually. And I got to do a stunt show in the Desert Oasis High School
that's
parking
dope.
lot, and my wife was kind of mad at me a little bit, like, "You just want to ride your
Why would you
motorcycle
bring
at
that?"
work
Yeah.
or at church?" And I said, "Yeah, of course I do." But I would still watch her tear down, and I would sit, and I would kind of get angry and upset
About not leaving right
about
away.
not leaving because I wanted to go watch football,
Mm-hmm.
right? I wanted to go watch my Bears, or I wanted to go stunt ride, or I was still selfish,
You
right?
wanted to get on with your day.
And I wanted to get on with my
given
day.
that hour to God. And
So yeah, so I was consuming. I was a Christian, right? I'd said that prayer, but I wasn't living as a Christian. I could say there would be no fruits of the Spirit at that point. So I actually started helping her just tear it down and get it packed away so I could leave. And what I thought I was doing out of my selfishness, God grabbed a hold of my heart, because eventually, helping her tear it down and pack it away, I started rolling it to the trailer. Then I started packing it in the trailer, learned how it went in the trailer. And eventually after that, I started going to other places in the school where we had services, and taking that stuff down and putting that in the trailer. Next thing I know, I'm full-fledged volunteering without being a volunteer. God kind of just did something in my heart. And coming from someone who said I was an atheist who hated people, it switched something in me as I started serving people. It was the weirdest thing ever, where I had this peace. I didn't do it because I felt like, hey, I'm impressing people or being good. I don't know why. It just grabbed a hold of me. And then we switched locations, and we went to an actual building where there was no longer set up teardown. And I felt,
Empty.
again, like I just didn't have a role. But at that point, I kind of had a good relationship with the pastor. It was Pastor Gary at the time, and they hired a new youth pastor named Daryl Spears. Dude had tattoos, full sleeve tattoos, rode dirt bikes, Southern California guy, right? I'm a Northern California guy myself.
but relatable.
But we hit it off instantly.
Nice.
So I started doing youth with him and started serving, and man, that just led me. It's so weird. My parents loved me. My dad poured into me. My mom poured into me, coached everything. But it was different having someone not related to you believe in you,
Yeah.
right? And the lies that you believe about yourself, have someone else counter that with what they see God doing in your life. was pretty amazing. And man, we hit it off. Our wives hit it off. Our kids all hit it off. And
Nice.
again, we bought side by sides and motorhomes and went to dunes. And I ruptured my Achilles at his birthday. And
Yeah.
that's when
But
I gave up
that's
dirt bike riding.
but that's a really great friendship and relationship that'll
Yeah.
last a lifetime, right?
For
Like,
sure.
I think back to some of the guys that we rode motorcycles with. Like, I don't even remember their last name, or I might remember their first name. Some of them I don't even remember their first name.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show that, you know, when I think about my close friends, not a lot of them ride motorcycles, and I think that's because we all kind of share the same lone dog mentality,
Yeah,
where we
that's
all
right.
kind of hate everybody. That's why we're on a single seat motorcycle bobbing and weaving through traffic. Um, so when you get a mentorship that kind of turns into a friendship, it's a really great thing. I mean, one of my best friends, the only reason I don't even know how we're still friends, because he calls me on so much of my bullshit, and I'm just like, well, maybe you're right. All right.
That's
fine.
right. Accountability.
Exactly. And the friends that are just like, no, Justin, you're doing great. Everything's good. You don't got nothing to work on. They don't really know me that well, because I got a ton to work on, right? And I think
right.
we all have a lot to work on constantly. And, that's what brings me to my faith, and I want to talk about Celebrate Recovery a little bit, because don't you lead that as well?
Yeah, I'm one of the leaders there at Celebrate Recovery. It's led by an amazing woman, Pastor Lisa, who is. And when I say when you meet someone rescued to be a rescuer, her heart is for the rescued. She goes and she'll storm beaches to rescue people. It's pretty amazing to see, especially at Central, the team that's there and
Yeah.
the heart behind them. But yeah, it's an amazing ministry.
Yeah. And what's it kind of focused around?
So it's any hurt, habit, or hang up. Every time we hear recovery, we think drugs, alcohol. It's like a third of the people that go there. It's mainly any hurt or hang up
Trauma,
that we have.
codependency,
Trauma, rage, anger, food issues, relational issues, abuse issues. It will deal with anything and everything that you go through. It's such an important ministry for our church. We kind of dub it the Leadership Factory. I'm from Celebrate Recovery. Again, I didn't think I had any issues. I thought I was perfect. My wife would differ on that. Maybe that's why she drugged me to it. But it's just an amazing ministry where I got to work through some of my rage and anger and really find freedom in it. And I wouldn't be a pastor today without the help of that ministry.
And when did all that start? Like, when did you start going to Celebrate Recovery and kind of getting more involved in that kind of thing?
So Celebrate Recovery for me started in 2012.
Wow.
We started going to that. And again, my wife went to it first. I was out of town during Arizona Bike Week working an event there, and she called me up on fire. Just, hey, I went to this thing. It was on Friday nights back then. She was excited. I could hear it in her voice. It was amazing. There's worship. There was a testimony. We're going.
Wow.
And of course, first thing in my head at that point, I'm serving, right? Still a great another Christian thing for me to do on the weekend, right?
Sure.
And God was still chiseling away at my heart, right? So she goes, there's another one Tuesday. We're going to go. And we walked straight into a step study. And a step study is where you work the 12 steps through books.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up in a room with 60 men, and hearing some of the things they were saying, I tried to leave because it freaked me out. I thought I was in a movie. Like, there's no way I fit in with them. I have nothing in common with them. And before I left, there was one guy I knew there, and he just said, hey, brother, like, give it a chance. Don't leave. And he said something that kind of rang true to me, and he said, look for the similarities, not the differences. And as I started looking for the similarities, man, I recognized a lot of things.
Yeah.
That it was me. Maybe I didn't identify with it. Maybe I didn't take it to that extreme, but it was me. I had it. So I went through a 13-month step study and broke chains, It was the greatest thing I've ever done in my Christian walk. It was the greatest thing I've ever done in my walk, period, as a father, as a pastor, as a husband. Uh, it was just that freeing. I would say anybody who's never done a step study, do a step study.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Helps
that
you kind of
powerful.
get a lot of things out and on paper and seeing them and
powerful.
speaking them for sure.
Pen to paper makes it real where God can do the work. And the Bible has an answer for everything.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Right.
You know, we hear these, you know, sermons on something that was written 3,000 years ago, and it still rings true to today, and to the parking lot and driving and someone cutting you off. You know, it still rings true today.
That's right. And it is relevant to our lives today. It's the living, breathing word of God, and there's a lot of freedom in it. There's a lot of healing in it,
Yeah.
right? And it's a free gift. We just have to take it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Well, it's totally up to us, and that's the one thing I think that, you know, God gave us is free will. He gave us the option to follow him or not to, and it's pretty strong when you know, I'm getting chills
Yeah.
when you go from a non-believer to someone who actually believes, and I can't express how important it's been in my life just to know that, you know, God loves me, and it's okay for me to make mistakes, and it's okay, you know, I
That's right.
you know, I can have a drink and I can do what I need to do, and I can go to God and ask for forgiveness. And, you know, it's not like a free pass to do whatever you want, but it's a faith in that you're forgiven, you know,
That's
and
right.
that Jesus died for our sins. And, you know, ever since I let's see, after my divorce, I went through some money troubles, right? And I was like, man, I might not be able to keep this shop. Like, this is probably, I might just have to move into a house with a 3-car garage and work out of my garage for a little bit, right? And I had, you know, recently been going to Central. I was going on, you know, Sundays, and if I wasn't going, then I was watching it on my phone live, right? And I was sitting in church one day, and I had like, I don't know, $100 in my bank account and like $100 in my pocket. And I was like, you know what? This $100 is going in that bucket. Like, I'm just going to have faith that, because they, you know, Pastor Judd and Mike, they had talked about how God, you know, how Jesus turned the bread into to feed everyone,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And the apostles were like, how are we going to, we can't invite all these people to dinner. We only have this
Yeah,
bread.
that's
And he
right.
says, don't worry, like, have faith in me and I will provide. And he did, you know, and since then, since becoming a generosity rock star and, you know, having money taken out of my account on the weekly basis, like, things have changed in my life, bro. Like, they really have. And I was just like you know, I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this because I don't really see any other options, right? Like, I'm going to give this a shot just the same way as I would put $100 in a Keno machine and bet black, right? Or whatever. But I took that step and that chance. And man, even now, like, if I run into trouble or I find myself in a tough spot, I just pray. I first I give thanks for everything that I have because I have so much, and I just pray for a breakthrough, and I pray that God allows me to do what he would have me do, however that looks, right? Use my
That's right.
finances, my time, my ability to serve you, however that looks. Whatever, if you want me to make a car look clean, if you want me to make this table carbon fiber, you tell me how to serve.
Yeah.
Show me, you know, that's all I'm asking. I'm not asking for anything but just to help me along. I'm new at all this. Push me in the right direction, right? And he has. And in that, you know, I've been able to start this podcast, and, you know, I want to continue having these breakthrough stories because people don't understand that when you're going through it, it's really difficult to look at someone like you or me and think like they've been where I am. Like,
Right.
no, you are where you are. I am where I am. You have no idea about where I am. Well, I have a lot an idea of where you are, because I was there, you
Right.
know, 2,
Right.
3, 4, 9 years ago, you know. Um, moving on, I know you and I met, in 2009, I think. I think you were a rep for,
Drag specialties at the time. Yeah. That's what
yeah,
brought
the
me to
bar.
Vegas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, so I was kind of like not working, but just kind of hanging out and
Yeah.
working on my bike in that shop with Nick, and then
At Charlie's shop, right?
Charlie's
Naked
shop.
City Cycles.
Yeah, Charlie's shop. And then remember Charlie's cousin or brother, whoever got a bike, fixed it all up, like, and I think on his first ride, split a donkey
Yes.
in half,
Yes.
like a baby burro
Yeah.
in half.
Yeah.
And that was one of the times where you kind of came through and you were like, hey, what can I do? And me and my parents lived here at the time. My mom was like, we can do a bake sale, I can bake a bunch of stuff. And we pulled together and really
Yeah.
made it happen. That was a great event. I mean,
That was, an
you
amazing event.
you and Nick Apex were out back stunting.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much money we made, but I know we made a good amount of money. And then I think I heard something along the lines of he wanted to buy another motorcycle, and I was just like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I
That's
think
our
that was-
mentality, though,
I know,
right?
I
That's our
know,
mentality.
I know. It is. It sure is. I mean, it's like the classic picture of the guy in the hospital, like, but how's the bike? In the hospital bed.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so it's interesting to see how we've had that common ground then, and now
Yeah.
we even share that common ground now. I truthfully had no idea that you really had anything to do with Central. I had an idea in my head. I want to say I saw it on Facebook maybe a year ago, but then I just never really put 2 and 2 together until we run into each other, a couple weeks ago, and I was like, man, it was so good to see you, man.
Well, I started when they hired me out of the Harley shop in 2016. I became the Southern Highlands location pastor.
Okay.
So I wasn't at the Henderson location
Gotcha.
for eight of the 9 years I've been a pastor there, or 7. I've been there almost 2 years now. But I was actually running my own location.
Oh, nice.
So they brought me up through the congregation and gave me the keys to the place.
Crazy,
and
right?
Sent me to Central Academy, where I got my advanced certificate of ministry. And man, it's wild to think that this believer stunt rider who hated people has the keys to a church to be a shepherd of people, right?
And it's not just any church. It's not a tiny church.
And
there's millions and millions and millions of dollars of equipment in those places. Like, it's not for the,
and
for
I
the
think
faint at heart.
what they trusted me more with was the congregation, right? And the people's spiritual
minds,
walks. And
It's even more important than any
and
monetary.
speaking of Naked City Cycles, I got it was my honor to unfortunately host Charlie's funeral there when he passed away. He had died in a motorcycle accident.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
This is the first
Oh,
I'm hearing about
man.
that.
Thought you might have known about that.
I did not.
Yeah, he had passed away. He was hit on his bike, and his sister reached out because she knew I was pastoring the church. And yeah, I said, we'll host it there. I'll do the funeral. So we had about 200 people there.
Jeez.
And, I got to see a bunch of people from the biking community come together. It was hard, right? Because Charlie was an amazing man, generous.
He was super generous.
Super generous. And, that whole team was Nick Lee and Gear. And when they said they were going to sponsor me for my stunt bike and give me a paint job, I expected a 2-tone bike,
Yeah.
red and black.
No.
It was realistic flames with ghost dragons in it. And
Yeah.
I was the best looking stunt rider out there at the XDLs. But it was pretty awesome.
Those
So,
guys could paint.
and I always keep that my mentality is, if you're in my corner and you have my back, I've got yours.
For sure.
So it was, unfortunately, a time where I had to have his back in that way, but where I could host his family and put it together quickly. And, take some of the pressure off,
Yeah.
right? Because funerals they're expensive and
Oh yeah.
it's overwhelming and
Yeah. I
you
mean,
know,
it's a whole business, man. They get you
yeah.
right as you're in your deepest moment of sympathy and hurt, and it's really, really difficult to navigate through.
So it was definitely my way to kind of give back to Charlie for all the support he gave me with sponsoring me and having my back as a stunt rider,
Yeah.
to host out there for his family, right, and be there for them. And but yeah, it was. So when after COVID, they shut our location down. We just didn't come back. We were in an industrial area that. The landlord is an amazing believer of God. It just wasn't a good place. No,
Yeah, I
no houses
understand.
around us.
Yeah, yeah.
It felt like you would get murdered if you went there on a Saturday night for an
Right.
event, right? So they shut our location down. That's when they brought me back into Henderson.
Nice.
And then I saw your post that you were in Henderson. I'm like, hey man, I'm a part of that church.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's an amazing, amazing church.
It is.
And I always say, the church is a real deal if they'll take someone like me and make them a pastor.
Yeah.
Because superficial beginner churches don't take an atheist and make them a pastor.
That's for sure.
Like, there has to be something there. And I get it. It's God and it's his will, but they're the conduit that God's using in that situation. And like I said, Pastor Judd and Pastor Drew and all those guys are real deal.
Definitely.
Same on stage as off the stage. Probably actually even more caring off the stage, right? Pour into you and always go out of their way. There's a big difference between working a secular job and working a job in ministry. When my boss called me back in the day at the Harley shop, man, I was ready I was getting cussed out,
Yeah.
maybe fired, suspended, who knows? When someone from the church calls me,
It's going to be a good conversation.
even if it's a bad conversation, right? And there's no bad conversations, but it's an uplifting
You're
conversation.
going to work through it.
And they're going to encourage you and uplift you and have your back.
Yeah.
So it's a whole different mindset coming from the secular world to a job in ministry where you get to be honest, do stuff. I get paid to do what I would do for free anyways.
Yeah, it's
Right.
two totally different ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
I would venture to say that a lot of motorcycle riders are probably atheists. I mean, it's pretty difficult to believe in God doing 180 down the street. I mean, I know that sounds funny saying that, but like you don't believe in really anything at that point. I don't think. I didn't. I just believed that. Well, if I live through this, then I'll ride again tomorrow. And
That's
now
right.
now I feel like I got a purpose. I got
sure.
a purpose to spread my story and hopefully help someone. And I know you do too.
I always found it funny though, even though I professed I didn't believe in God, every time I was flying through the air off my bike, oh God,
Praying
don't
at
let
that
this
point.
hurt.
Praying
Oh
at
God,
that
don't
point.
let this hurt.
Yeah.
Oh God, don't let this hurt.
Yeah.
And I always found that weird because if you've never been thrown from your bike, you don't understand that it feels like
Forever.
forever.
Oh, dude.
You have that internal conversation
Yeah.
when you're disconnected from your motorcycle,
Flying through the air.
flying through the
Yeah.
air.
Or skidding across the ground. Really,
skidding
when am I
across the
going to
ground.
stop? What's going to, because they say it's not the fall that kills
Yeah.
you. It's the sudden stop
That
at the
sudden
end.
stop, for
Yeah.
sure.
So, I mean, it's, yeah. I mean,
The first Indo I flipped at speed actually was at Central, doing a stunt show at the Henderson location
Oh,
for a Father's Day event. And I was doing this stunt show. They had 2 experiences on a Saturday night, and it was about 110 out. So I boiled my front brake fluid during the first show. So during the second show, I went out there, I was going wild and
faded out.
it was faded out, I thought. Usually I would warm up a little bit and test my front brake, and I didn't. So I went ripping down that straightaway, grabbed a handful of front brake to do an Indo, and it was there. Uh, and I went over the handlebars and the bike landed on me and I separated my shoulder.
Never fun.
And I kicked the bike off me, got up, clip-ons all messed up, did a burnout, right? Kind of played it up to the crowd, almost crashed again, went into the motorhome that was there and
Cried.
Yeah, I cried. And the guy who hired me came up and he's like, "Hey, bro, like,
Are you okay?
I can't believe you did that. Are you all right? Like, hey, you don't have to do any shows tomorrow. Just keep the money. You're good."
Another day.
And I'm like, "I'm riding tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm there." And I did, you know,
you?
and yeah,
No
I did,
kidding.
man. I fixed
Beast.
my bike and I made a commitment that I was going to do that show and had a few Advils and went and did it again.
Lucky you.
And made sure I tested. And that was the first at-speed endo I flipped in 13 years of stunt riding.
Yeah.
I mean, the rest, doing 180s, right? Towards the end of the endo, you're kind of slowed down anyways. You just kick out of it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that one was
Yeah.
at the church of all places.
I went over the bars of my 450 dirt bike in Dumont and
Oh, yeah.
broke my shoulder. I don't have any idea why I was 38 years old on a 450 dirt bike in Dumont, but you know, whatever. It's
That's where I ruptured my Achilles at Dumont going big.
Dude, I flew over Dumont. That was pretty cool. I don't know if
Awesome.
you saw that video, but it was really awesome. So, anyways, you know, so what's next on you? What's on the horizon, do you think?
Man, I'm just serving God right now. I'm the pastoral lead over baptisms and decisions at our Henderson location and growing in leadership in our Celebrate Recovery. And I'm just serving God. Like, I love what I do.
Good.
I get to go and be part of just in the trenches with ministry. It's so raw in that baptism room when people are making, I would say, the second biggest decision of their lives.
Yeah.
The first being giving their life to Jesus, and then that second walking in obedience with him. And it's amazing to hear the stories and pray with them and see the life change and explain and have fun and celebrate and just be able to do ministry.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I mean, being in the audience, seeing people being baptized, I mean, you can see it come all over them.
Yeah. So, you know, just serving at the church, and they say if you do something you love, you never work a day in your life, right? And ministry's hard. It's harder than any other job I've ever had. I've roofed. I've done concrete. I mean, I've motorcycle shops. Emotionally.
Have you ever detailed cars,
No.
though?
No.
I hear that's pretty hard.
That's why I hired you that time to do when you were first starting out, to do my BMW.
A tiny little truck. Oh, good times.
But it's spiritually hard, right? I don't know how Pastor Judd does it. They say preaching 1 30-minute message is working an 8-hour day, is what it spiritually takes toll on your body. And he does 1 on Saturday, 3 on Sunday. Yeah. So it's one of those things where you deal with, the highs are highs, right? You get to be involved with some very spiritual moments and some very amazing spiritual moments. And then the lows are lows where you're walking with someone in their hardest time. Right, in their tragedy. And you kind of have to be a warrior. You got to be a warrior for God, and can't rely on yourself.
Yeah.
Because I'm not good with that stuff.
Right.
The Holy Spirit gets me through it, and only through His grace and power can I do that. But again, it's an amazing thing to be a part of.
Yeah.
Either way, it's tough, and again, it's the toughest thing I've probably ever done in my life. Is ministry, full-time ministry.
Yeah.
Because people hate you. Some people hate you, and you don't know why, and you just got to kind of take it. Some people love you. Again, you don't know why, right? But you can't let that boost your ego.
I mean, you think about the life of Jesus, you know, and the stories and how humble he was and how powerful he was, right? And that's right. You kind of got to live life like that, right? And I can only imagine it's that much harder being a leader in a leadership role to walk by faith and show people how to walk by faith rather than showing people how to walk by manipulation and
Yeah.
shade and you know.
That's right. And it is a battle, right? It's a daily battle because you're still battling yourself.
Oh, dude, I mean, like I said,
Right?
I drive a lot in this town. Traffic's terrible. Someone will
Yeah.
cut me off. I'll be like,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh wait, you're a Christian, dude. Calm down. Like,
Right.
give it to God.
I wear this
That's
hat.
right,
I wear
yeah.
this hat to remind me not to road rage on people.
For sure. It's so
Do
easy.
I want to represent Christ
But
that way?
yeah, it's so easy
Yeah.
to you know, slip back in those ways, and that's just the enemy coming into us, trying to pull us back and saying
100%.
that like he wants us, and it's up to us to follow the, you know, what our teachings and
That's right.
what we're learning.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, I think the great theologian Mike Tyson said, if you let that change you, then the devil wins.
For sure.
I was pretty impressed when he said that, because that's very insightful. That again, the spiritual attacks are real, and the devil is waiting for us
Alive and well.
to hit our defaults, and he'll help us, and it'll feel good, right? I mean, I started doing Muay Thai at Extreme Couture and working out there a lot once I quit stunt riding, because I still needed that release.
Yeah.
And it felt good to get that out. Now, it was a great positive way to get that out.
For sure.
It wasn't the old destructive way.
Yeah, I mean, you could go out and pick a fight with a guy on the street and pummel him, and it's not going to make you feel any better.
Or get pummeled, right?
You never know who you're messing with here in Las Vegas, man.
And
I
my
just love it.
mentality was always, I didn't care if I won or lost.
Yeah, me neither.
We're both going to be hurt,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I just like to feel pain because I'm feeling pain. So you're going to feel my pain.
Yep.
And being in a gym and having that outlet, because I think you've done a little boxing, right?
Mhm.
I did some boxing. I'm a 1-0 amateur fighter at this point,
Okay.
right? But I think having that outlet for that, and knowing that, man, there's guys that will murder me in
There's
here.
dangerous people
So
out there.
good. And there's women in the UFC that'll murder me
Oh,
there.
yeah.
And just being humble and having the ability to stay humble, right? And it's kind of how I did my stunt riding. That's why I rode with Nick all the time.
Yeah.
The guy was the
Nick
best.
will keep you humble for sure.
And he was the best and was
I don't know
amazing at
how
stunt
freaking
riding.
naturally good. I don't understand how he was just so. I mean,
Oh.
the dude started riding in like 07 or 08 or something like that.
Yeah,
and
when
was
I-
a professional rider in like 2 years.
I first met him in 04.
Oh, okay.
We came here and he was filming.
Yeah, but he wasn't a rider.
He wasn't a rider.
Yeah,
he
dude,
was
like-
rollerblading
Yeah.
with a ponytail. If you're listening, Nick, with that
Oh,
ponytail, with that tank humper wheelie style. They'll say it wasn't him. But yeah, I've never seen somebody so naturally gifted on. I hated him for that, but at the same time, I loved him for
He's
that.
such a humble guy and such
So
a
good.
good dude.
So
I mean,
good. And I loved riding with him because I felt like a piece of crap every day riding with him.
Yeah,
And that's what I needed.
yeah.
Like-
Well, there's guys out there that would make you feel like a piece of crap by just being
Being
themselves.
a jerk.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
It was his
This is-
because he was so good at riding.
Right.
And I wasn't compared to him.
Yeah.
And it just kept me humble. And I could go around others that I was better than, but I know my ego and I know myself. I would have been off on a spiral thinking I'm the best dude in the world.
Right.
But it was cool to ride with some of the best riders in the world that I got to meet through all that, and just to see how much better, what levels there are to
Dude,
it.
I mean, Jorian Panama Reef is insane, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I remember when we first started, like, when I started really kind of getting into it and watching the videos and stuff. That kid is just
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
but
Stunner
Nick's-
13. Stunner
Yeah.
13 was amazing. Super nice, down to
Ernie
earth
was
kid. Shin. So I
Yeah.
got to meet through my travels with Nick. Got to meet a bunch of stunt riders that would come ride with him. Right, even some of the
course.
U.S. guys that would come from Georgia and stuff, and Aaron Schweit and dudes that are doing like movies now. Ernie
Yeah.
V. Hill, like, dude's a
Mhm.
savage on a bike. Just,
Oh yeah.
again, a bunch of naturally gifted jerks that get to do that for a living.
Well, you know how it
yeah,
is. I
they're
mean,
awesome.
some people have to kind of work to get that relationship
For sure.
between the bike and them, and some people just get on it naturally and just go.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I had a buddy with a CR80 as a kid. You know, we were 9, 10. I mean, he would have to run next to it and hop on it to even get it go because he couldn't stand on top of it and start. You know, he's 4'8", nothing. No CR80s,
Yeah.
but big bikes. And I remember getting on that thing and just ripping it. I mean, I had ridden like PWs and you know, XR 100s and stuff like that. But when I got on that CR and hit that power band second gear, it was, oh man, it was like, this is dope. This is dope. And that's, I think, when my real love of motorcycles started. And my buddy's like, give it back, you know, because I'm
That's
like
right.
wheeling it. I don't even know what I'm doing. No foot on the back brake, just riding the power band, like, you know, but it's pretty funny. But
Yeah.
at any rate, we'll finish up here. Is there any final thoughts, or is there any, you know, Bible verse that you kind of try to live by every day? Or
Yeah, my absolute favorite Bible verse is Psalms 144:1. Praise the Lord, He is my rock, prepares my hands for battle, and strengthens my hands for battle, and gives my fingers skill for war. I love that verse for so many reasons. I battle every day. Battle against my old self.
Yep.
Battle against the inner voice telling me I'm not qualified or good enough, telling me to quit, telling me to go back to motorcycles. You know, it's a spiritual battle every day to surrender. I have to battle, and when I do get to do ministry, right, it's a war. It's a spiritual war. It's a physical war. But I love that verse because it's a Psalm of David, and you know, he was conquering and he was a warrior. But if you read down in that verse, warriors need to be comforted. Warriors need to be protected. And David's talking about how God is his protector, how he can be himself and be protected, and God will protect him and comfort him. And I love that rawness of warriors having something higher than them to lean on, right? But yeah, that's my verse. I used to put it every time I'd go to Bang Muay Thai on my post. I would put Psalms 144:1, and I'd purposefully not write it out.
Yeah.
So
Make somebody
people
go
would look
for
it up, right? And just my way of kind of spreading gospel through the interweb, I should say. But yeah, it's a powerful verse that just reminds me that he's my rock, and he's there, and he's prepping me for battle every day.
For sure.
And not to let my guard down, because I know how easy it is, like we said, to hit the default button and go back to the old Matt.
Yep.
There is a friend group I have, my family, who have never seen the old me, who don't know the old me, right? My kids have no idea who I was, and I love it, right? My wife has never, she's seen bad sides of me. She's seen it, right, my rawness and all of my flaws, but she hasn't seen the worst of me. She's the closest person in the world besides my brothers and my mom and everything that's seen it. But and I'm happy. I'm happy about that. I'm happy that I battle every day to keep
them shielded from that, Matt.
All my old friends or even my new friends that don't know that who Matt is, the
or
old
was.
original Matt, right?
Who
I was, and you know, they get a little lippy once in a while, and I'm like, I'm glad I'm not the old me.
Man.
Sometimes I wish I could.
You're sitting there saying that, and I'm
get
like,
the mobbing days behind me.
I wish I could just show my kids a video of the old me just to scare the crap out of them. Like, that's who you're messing with when you're talking back.
Yeah, yeah. And at the same time, I'm humbled that God has done that work into me where I can say there's an old me.
Yep.
And I'm not trapped in that anymore. I'm not trapped in that cycle anymore. And of course, it's not perfect, right? I'm not perfect. If you know me long enough,
No
I'm going to
one's
say
perfect.
something that offends you. I wear things on my face a lot as far as my emotions. But again, it's something that God has grown in me. And I heard a pastor once say, because I was always a truth teller, right? I'm brutally honest.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a loud voice and I'm pretty upfront and stern, right? So I could easily tell you what I thought of you, no problem.
Yeah.
And I was at this Act Like Men's conference, and Pastor James McDonald gets up there, and he said, "All truth with no love is brutality," right? And at that time, I was potty training my son, and it just kind of took me there where he's potty training, he's sitting on the toilet, but he doesn't push it down, and it's peeing everywhere, and I'm screaming and yelling at my son.
Because that doesn't help at all.
Right? And I'm screaming and yelling at him, but I'm telling him the truth. Like, you're
Yeah,
peeing
yeah.
everywhere, but I'm screaming and yelling at him. And it hit me that that I was brutalizing my son, right? Brutality. It's not just physical, right? And I was that guy, and still gets me today just thinking about it. But that woke me up, right? That woke me up, and I was able to then go back after a lot of prayer, a lot of crying, because tough guys cry. But it was then I started doing it with love, right?
Did you notice a difference in?
Yeah, all of a sudden, because he didn't want me to help him, and all of a sudden he did.
He didn't want you to help him because you would yell at him.
I would, yeah, and I treated my wife that way, my daughter that way, man, right?
Mm.
So once I kind of God revealed that in me, because I'm brutally honest,
Yeah.
right? And once He got rid of that out of me, and I started speaking truth in love, it was better received,
Of course.
and it was much more productive. And yeah, man, it's
I think we just grew up in a totally different time.
Oh,
Matt.
yeah.
Like we grew up in a time where if someone was unhappy or displeased, that they yelled.
Yeah,
And they
for
would
sure.
scream and yell. And even if something happened in a store, let me speak to the manager, and you'd scream and yell at them, and you'd get your way.
Yeah.
But we're in a time now where you can't scream and yell at people. They shut down right away. And
Right.
I notice in you saying that I could give my son a little more grace. He's 3, and I mess with him sometimes. I'm like, "You're a baby," and he's like, "I'm not a baby," and I'm like, "But babies wear diapers," and he's like, and
Yeah.
my older one will be like, "Yes, you are a baby," and that's it's one of those things. Whereas like that's not well received, and it took me having this conversation to understand that,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of dads are probably out there struggling with, that fine boundary of becoming the disciplinarian, but also showing that love and,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
compassion, right? Because, mom's job is to love, and to nurture. And, dad's job is to correct and enforce. But we still have to nurture too, because otherwise we push them away and it becomes issues in the future, So even when me and my 11-year-old butt heads, like I'm always in his room at the end of the night. Like I may have been hard on you, and I may be disappointed in you, but I love you very much, and you mean the world to me. And I hope in that me showing him that adoration, that he goes to bed feeling that rather than whatever else happened, right?
Yeah.
But it's tough to keep that in mind, because kids will do things sometimes where you're like, have you lost your mind? Like, where
Yeah.
did you learn this?
Yeah.
Do you see me do
Yeah.
this? Do you think it's okay? But there's so much influence from TV and it's just unbelievable, you know,
Yeah.
and I kind of want to limit my kids more so from a lot of things nowadays, just because it's just they're at such a developmental age. And you know, the way that I kind of remind myself how to teach and parent my kids is I think about, how do you want them to remember you?
Mm.
What kind of stories do you want them to tell their children? Do you want them to say, "Oh my God, my dad was so hard on me. He yelled at me like when I didn't, you know, close the shower curtain, or he yelled at me when I didn't put the toilet seat down." And, you know, or I want my children to be like, you know what, my dad was a man of faith. He was a very hardworking man. He went after the things that he wanted. He wanted to fly airplanes. He went and did it. He wanted to race motorcycles. He went and did it. He wanted to rock climb. He went and did it. And when the time came for him to put it aside, where he had to be the responsible adult and make the responsible decision for me, he did.
That's right.
And that's how I want to be remembered, you know? I'd love to be remembered for having a beautifully hot, caring, loving wife too. That'd be kind of cool, but you know, no, I'm just kidding. It's a different podcast for a different day. Anyways, man, but is there any final thoughts you want to give? I really appreciate you being here, man. Like I said, I got a lot from this just in the last like couple minutes, and I think that it's going to be a good thing for people to listen to. So.
No, I just appreciate the opportunity to come here. Yeah, I think it's just never too late to pursue God, wherever you're at, right? Wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, He wants you where you're at. Doesn't want a better future version of yourself, perfect version.
No, he'll meet you right where you are, and he'll create that.
He does his best work in the brokenness, right? So I would just say, you know, as you want to be remembered as having a hot wife, you know, I just want to be remembered as faithful to God, right? I don't want my kids to ever think that I'm perfect. I don't try to portray that to them. I just try to be real.
Yeah.
Right? Just be real to them. And when I do screw up, make my amends, own it.
Well, that's important to teach them for future,
sure.
for their dealings too, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's okay to say sorry. Like, there's a couple people in my life who just, I don't think sorry is in their vocabulary, you know? And it's,
for sure.
I always want to make sure that my kids know that I take responsibility for my actions. And if I may have acted up out of
That's right.
emotion, it's not okay. Here's where I went wrong, and I'm sorry for that.
That's right.
You know, and sorry without an explanation is just, you know, sorry for yelling at you. Like, buddy, what happened was I came in, the trash can was full, you know, the dog just peed on the floor, you left the door open, and I turned around and I took it out on you, right? And it's not you.
Yeah.
It's me. So I just want you to know I'm sorry for yelling at you, you know, and
For sure.
I try to do that as quickly as possible, because they'll remember it, and it'll fester with them, man.
It's always a teaching lesson with our boys, right?
Yeah.
Where I just had it the other day at a baseball game where I kind of went off on an umpire in my pastoral way, of course. Just questioned his calling. I wasn't cursing, but I was a little stern with him, a little harsh with him, and just kind of told me he didn't know what he was doing. And then I looked it up, and he actually knew what he was doing, and I was the one that was wrong.
Shoot.
So I waited till my son got out of the dugout and came up to me, and I said, "Hey, man, come here. I want you to watch this." So I went walking up to the umpire when he was at his car changing, and I just said, "Hey, man, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm sorry I came at you the wrong way. In fact, you were right. I was wrong. I shouldn't have even said anything to you, even if you were wrong and I was right." And just made my amends. And I told my son in the car, I wanted you to see that for a reason. As a man, you always have to be able to humble yourself and admit when you were wrong and take accountability for what you did.
Totally.
So I use that as a learning lesson as I'm still learning to keep my mouth shut at these sporting events, because I'm still a passionate person, right? And God hasn't taken that all away from me. And in fact, I think he's amplified that. But it's good how God still, he takes things and lets you learn.
Totally.
right? I'm always learning about myself, my walk, others, and
Takes the
God,
bad and turns
and
it good.
never wastes a hurt. So, yeah, man, no, I just appreciate the opportunity to come chat with you and,
Yeah,
and
same here, man,
reconnect, and
for sure.
happy that you're a part of our church. Our church
Yeah,
is an
me too.
amazing church.
And
right?
for anybody that wants to tap into Central, do you want to just give them a little plug quick so they can find them online? Or
Yeah, you can go to centralchurch.online is our website, or you can go get our Central Church app.
it's totally what I would recommend doing, because you can watch live, you can watch
Our
all
YouTube,
the
our
past teachings.
Facebook. It's just an amazing ministry that God's doing here in Las Vegas, taking
It is.
something that they tried to claim as Sin City and turn it into Hope City or Grace City,
For
right?
sure.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. Central's an amazing church.
Right on. Well, thank you guys for joining us. It's Justin Day with Attention to Details. Subscribe and like for more updates, and we'll see you next time.
Awesome. Easy, right? That was cool. Oh, man. Don't get me talking. I'll keep random stories.
I just got a text that my client's here.
Let's go. Oh.